So we are here today. I'll walk through with my friend Patrick here. Generally, I do have some walkthroughs where I show my face, but generally it's just hands down. But I think this is going to be fun. We are here to take a look at the Inner World Tarot, and it is by Kelly Fitzgerald with Patrick J. Fogarty. Official. I mean, if it's got a seal on it, it's official, right?
I mean, the seal is
Yeah,
pretty epic.
it's official. We are going to be talking about this deck. This is really more, I have a video already about like the literal creation of it. I will put a link to that in the description box below if you want to see literally how everything was created. This is a little more just a standard walkthrough. These images are an AI collaboration. They're a collaboration between me, Patrick, the universe, and the mystical, magical, technological space of AI, which again, I've got actually 2 videos on my experience diving into like the liminal space of tech and that, which I find extremely interesting. Not everybody's as nerdy as me. Patrick's pretty nerdy as well. So I will put those links below that because we're really not going to dive into that today, but it is fascinating. I am not going to pretend otherwise. And we'll talk a little bit about it. Each one of the cards came out of both a textual storytelling experience and then the image creation experience. So it is very much a kind of a dual space that inhabited. But if you want all the nitty gritty about that, you can go watch the other video. Okay.
They're awesome.
Now we have 3 sizes here because of Patrick. I believe, Patrick, are you landing with the ginormous one being your favorite?
I am, just because I generally am doing those single card pulls and I just love having that big image.
I do think we should at least talk about how you got sucked into this.
This
Why?
lightning in a bottle moment here of ours here.
You want to share how we started all this?
It started, I go back to our WhatsApp conversations, which are lengthy because we chat. And I just remember feeling like in March, we were doing a lot of talking back and forth around being just both equally but differently fried in more ways than one. And like actually just really truly like we've talked for years, we've been friends for years, almost a decade. And we've seen highs and lows, but this was a little bit of a different
very real
version.
burnout, I think, on
It
both
was
sides.
both sides. And I just remember April 3rd, I got a message from you. Actually, right before April 3rd, you had started sending me, like, you were playing because of work. You were playing with
I started working with AI training. Yeah. So I was definitely like, oh my gosh, look at this, that kind of stuff.
Yes. Yeah. And I was getting these images from you, which I thought were really cool. It was cool to see you playing, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it feels like all of a sudden, April 3rd, I get this image from you that was so beautiful of a dragon in a cage, and you were kind of starting to play with the idea of just creating a few cards. Definitely tarot. Yep, there's the image.
That was the very first image.
Yeah, and I think you were saying like high priestess-ish for the idea of this. And I loved it. And I saw you sent me that, and then I saw the Fool, and I saw the Magician, which is probably my favorite card in the deck.
I was gonna say, I think that's on the box.
It's on the cover because it's my favorite
also
image.
on the front of the guidebook.
Yeah, which I just love this image so much. Because to me it just encapsulates the whole deck. It's just it's truly the inner world.
Which it does, not the image, but the concept of the map does, which we'll talk about when we get to the Magician.
Yeah. When you sent that image, it was when I first noticed, because I had not been playing in AI space, but I had been playing in my inner childscape as well. I'd kind of been trying to recharge my buckets with my own inner child. And in my office, I had been sending you pictures.
Are you able to flip your camera? Oh, no,
you're I'll just turn the computer around. So this is my
master. Oh, come on now.
So it's funny because this is a world that's my inner space. I need my inner child alive and well. And it was like really sparking so much for me. A lot of the art is very epic and
and I was putting, so in the prompting, in order to try to get the images to be cohesive, I was starting them all out with the same sentence, and one of the descriptors was magical realism, which is very much in that
whole lane
type of that epic fantasy, brightly
sorcery
colors, saturation.
Yes.
It's probably similar to like the packaging of
Yes.
Masters of the Universe and stuff like that.
100%. Like it's that whole like 70s, early 80s,
Which I
brightly
think the
colored.
boxes just I love
Yeah. And so as soon as
those
I
are
saw
all
your
Patrick. Let me just say, I did not do anything except for AI generate that image.
well, it was amazing because as soon as you sent me that image, and I was like, I love everything about it, but I think that font should look more. And I was
Yes.
inspired by these fonts that I'm
Yeah.
used to from that I'm using right now as my computerizer. Um,
Yeah.
and I said, I think it just needs like a retro 80s like font.
Or,
And you came back with this font that we have now used on the deck. And as soon as that was on there, because that was a pretty dramatic font shift, that for me is when it all changed.
and his
Yeah.
reaction was so I really was kind of like, look, I had been in, again, I started working in training AI. So I had sent like Patrick and, Jamie, a couple people, a lot of like stories. Like I had talked to, King Arthur or whoever, like in AI chat. So
Yeah.
I sent a lot of things, but I still like was like, okay, people, know I'm a nerd, but like I'm really nerding out over this, but you're trying to control your nerdiness, like to not
Yeah.
drive away like the people
Yeah.
whose eyes are glazing over. So I do remember being a little bit like, look what I'm gonna do. Like I'm gonna play around with because the premise was I have to do a lot of conversations. So I thought, well, I have 78 cards. I got 78 conversations. I'll just like enter into the space of the card to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And then after I did it, I was like, oh, well, then I'll just make an image. And then that way, just in play. And it was so much fun. But when I sent it, I was kind of like, you were like totally enthusiastic. And
Yeah.
it just snowballed. It just like,
Something like really magical happened because there was no conversation about creating a deck to put out there. And from
but
that point, it was just kind of like, okay, well,
so we're just having fun. Yeah.
I felt like I came over to your house and we played. We were
That's what
playing.
it felt
It's
like.
just
I
been
talk
so
about, like, I
joyous.
have a video somewhere about mandorlas, which are where two circles cross, and that
Yeah.
center overlapping is really powerful. You'll see this on some ancient sites. I think it's on the cover of the well at a really popular sacred space. I don't know if it's St. Bridget's, but somewhere over there. But you'll see mandorlas,
Okay.
not a mandela, but a mandorla, and it's
Yeah.
that crossing point. And I do think that's what happened. It's like
Yeah.
my need for my inner child space,
Yeah.
and your need like crossed and created this really powerful space in the middle
Yeah.
that was just
Yeah.
pure joy.
It was just been so much fun. And what was so exciting for me is because I was so burnt out, I wasn't feeling creative. I wasn't feeling anything. And so it just suddenly felt like as soon as you changed that font, I saw the boxes, I saw the guidebook cover, I
Yeah.
saw like
I
it
think
just
you
all
even might
fell
have,
into my
I
brain.
think it was pretty early on, I think, when you showed me the cover of this.
I think it was like literally the
Because
same
I
week.
remember thinking, well, and I'm like, sure, I guess we're doing a guidebook.
Yeah.
Even though, again, this was just for ourselves, but like we
Yes. Yeah.
wanted it. And
Yes.
so, and then we'll come back to the guidebook. But I
Yeah.
think it was relatively early.
It
I
was.
didn't say, hey, could you try to make a guidebook? It's like, no. He's like, hey,
No.
look at that.
No, I just printed it off I did it and I printed it off my printer and I was like, look at
I
this,
know. And then that same night, I'm like, oh, so then I had gone to try to find a template that looked like D&D and like
Yes.
that was set up like a D&D manual that
Yeah.
you have, because this is based off of the outer part is based off of I was it the 1980
Yeah, it's
79.
like I think I Googled like early 80s
Yeah,
D&D
I
adventure
think we
book.
found, yeah, it was like 7980 that this was like
Yes.
an actual cover of a
Yes.
D&D thing. So then I'm like, well, can I find it inside? And then it
Yeah.
just started rolling. And again, this was just literally could have just been for the two of us. And I've
I
been
mean, truly.
perfectly happy.
Yeah, I mean it's truly how it felt the whole time. Like
I
there was
know.
zero pressure. It really
But
was.
it was made so when you are well, the software that I was using, when it exports the images, they are square images, and they are pretty low resolution images. Are not super. It's not like there are sites like Midjourney that create really high resolution images and stuff. This one was not. It was more of a textual chat one, but then had features to be able to do it. So they weren't super large quality images, and they were squared. So I really just figured it's going to have to go on a poker. I've done enough poker. Every deck almost that I've created has a poker size.
Look at those.
And
Look
so I
at those
knew the
decks.
resolution would be fine. Resolution would be fine for that. So
Yeah.
originally it was just going to be on the poker.
Yeah.
And then and Patrick had said we need to make it bigger, but I really thought I knew how I could do it, but it was going to be really a total reconstruction. I was going to have to take it out. I was going to have to somehow upscale it. Then I was going to have to build it back up out into like the other template. Anyways, I knew it was going to be a lot of work. I was like, I just need to finish this before I can think about this. And then I made one to see if it would work. I'm like, okay, let me see, because I think I had gotten the sample majors back, and I was like, okay, these could be really gorgeous bigger.
Yeah.
So I made one and I sent it to Patrick to say, okay, like I can do it. And then I think you had them all done.
Because unbeknownst to her, because we had gotten, or she had had a little test deck, and I had been saying right from the beginning, like, this really should be big. Like, the images are so detailed and gorgeous, and
so then I had a breather to kind of think like, oh, okay, well, you know, how hard is this going to be is kind of what I was trying to figure out. So I sent him the one saying, okay, it worked. And then he's like, I'm uploading into our drop.
Stop working. It's done. For me, this was so cool because I had the poker size images from Kelly, which were formatted perfectly to be printed at Make Playing Cards, or just formatted for the poker size. And so I downloaded the templates for both the tarot size and the giant size. I think they call it giant on Make Playing Cards. And I put those templates in Photoshop. And I just basically, first thing I did was drag all 78 images in, and I changed the resolution from 300 DPI.
That was the thing, is it needed to be upscaled. The actual image quality needed to be upscaled.
But it was really easy. It's an automated process within Photoshop, and it just changed the resolution to 1200 DPI. But then the next thing, then I had to crop all the bottoms off because it had all the titles. But I was like, I'm gonna surprise her.
No, he was doing it. So I didn't
because I had already done the guidebook cover and the poker size box. And we were like really like firing on all creative cylinders between the two of us. But what it was so amazing is when I dropped that poker size image onto these templates, it still didn't fill the space.
Right.
And I got the opportunity that night. I did all three sizes to highlight the space that was vacant. And instead of manipulating or cutting or losing any images, I was able to ask Photoshop to just expand the image based on the existing image. And I got 3 options presented back, and I got to go through all the cards and pick, for myself, really my only objective was what felt the truest to the
so that it kind of matched up well.
Yes.
But there was something cool about that moment where you're waiting to see what's it going to do. And so you got to experience that with.
Yeah, and it really made me, honestly, it was another thing that really made me appreciate that text prompt that you need to create. Like, while there was no intentions initially to create a deck that would be out here, your narratives and trying to generate these images are fully intentional. Like what you want.
I mean, again, we've been reading tarot a long time.
Yeah, it was so fun to sort of watch that spinny ball and be like,
what's going to come up?
What's coming up? 100%.
I'm going to hone us in for a second.
Yes.
So there are 3 versions. Again, the poker, and once we've gone through it, I'll kind of show them all. I don't want to like flash the cards out of order, but the poker size was the original form, and then it was pulled into the tarot and the larger. They are both the exact same cards on the bottoms. He didn't have to crop anything, which is fantastic. But then it just has the tarot, I think, has the most, because it's skinny and tall, has the most added to the top of it, just to fill in that top space. Just for being able to see it the best, I'm going to use the large one for our walkthrough.
Awesome.
And again, the theme of the aesthetics, which is all Patrick. It has that very 80s like Magic the Gathering boxes or RPG game boxes. I think my daughter even said like this one almost looked like a VHS tape uh
Yeah, it does
cover
kind of have that.
on the front of
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
That was definitely the look that we were going for.
yeah,
And you know, we don't in tarot now, there's very few tuck boxes, right, anymore, because certainly
yeah.
in mass marketing, they don't really, I mean, I think there's still a few wandering, but not very many. But this is one in which I actually love the tuck box because it
Yeah.
goes with the aesthetic of it. Um,
Chosen intentionally. Chosen intentionally.
It's
Yeah.
perfect for this. And truthfully, the older, I don't have it by me, but one I've been kind of throwing in a bag knowing it wasn't the final. It's gotten a little, you know, dinged up and stuff. It only looks better.
It
It only
does.
looks more like you found it in a
Yeah.
gaming shop somewhere stuck in the
Yeah.
corner there. So
So
I
true.
absolutely love it.
And the
Um,
guidebook you've got there will be the same way because it's kind of in that
yeah.
old 80s magazine style.
Love the key here. Actually, my daughter loves the key there. And then these
It's so
are the
fun.
aces. Like there's so many little, well, I think there's the aces down here too.
They are all four of the
Yeah, all the
aces
little
on the
tabs have
tab.
the four aces
Yeah.
on them, which is really cool.
You can see
There would
like
not have, if it had been me, there would not have been a box. The dealing with making like this, the way that you have to make boxes like this,
the pain in the butt.
yes, but it turned out amazing.
Yeah, it's
Actually, it
so
just makes
cool.
me
I'm
so happy.
so happy with how it came out because it really
Yeah,
fits it to me. It's one of those things I think we just said the other day. It was like it really feels like the packaging evokes what the deck is too.
yeah,
The packaging feels
100%.
kind of epic and inviting and playful, and then the deck is very epic and joyous and
Yeah,
inviting and
no,
playful.
and then the guidebook, I get every piece of it is just so fun. So the whole premise, and we'll have a bit of glare because I have it laminated, but I made this map of my inner world.
Yeah.
I don't know how many years ago, quite a few years ago, on a software called Arcana, and I'll put a link to that below. I highly encourage people. I have a workshop called Inner World or Inner Landscape of like really trying to tap into your inner world and know what that is. And I do show you kind of how to use Incarnate, but this is a mapping software that you would use for D&D adventures, role-playing games in which you need to create a map for, you know, an encounter or something. And so I had made this map of my inner world. Like I have short stories that already I've written when I was younger. I know where they exist. This even says on here, like there's where the wolves are. There's the tree home, which is the hermit's house. So I had this years ago. So when I entered into this, I thought, okay, I'm going to go to each of those places on my map in the text experience, and tie this into tarot as sort of a overlaying archetype, right? So it makes sense that the back is a compass,
Yeah.
because it's all about navigating our inner world and existing in that space. But rather than like north, south, east, and west, it does have above and under. For me, it's all about the above and what's above and what's under the in here that we're in this inner space here. So it's a quirky little thing, but that's what's on the back is a compass, which is going to help you navigate. Purpose of the deck is to navigate your inner world. That's the whole where that started. But it's been for me. So again, there's so many layers because for me, the other part has been, so this is the map as it currently looks now. And it's similar, but it is all filled out, new spaces explored. Like it took my inner world itself and it just like expanded it in such an amazing way. And so
Yeah.
that's why the back is a compass and the aces are a compass. And that's why the magician, which we'll look at, is a map because he has the compass, he has the map, he has everything that he needs to explore and to manifest out like the magician does. And that's all because of this old little, I mean, it's not cute. I love the original,
I
but
love it.
of doing that work of figuring out your inner landscape, then you get to play in it and it just grows. So it's just,
Yeah.
yeah, it's been such on multiple fronts of coolness. It makes me so excited.
So when Kelly sent me those images of her map, in the Masters of the Universe world, I have them in these books. I can't show you because my computer's on them, but they are a fact, it's a
Yeah, they
brand
usually
that
have
they
maps.
have maps. And so when she sent me these, it's like there's the Mystic Mountains, and that's where Castle Grayskull would
Your
be, and there's
his own connections. Yep.
yeah, and so it was just like I haven't necessarily mapped out in that way my own inner landscape, but what I have done as a kid is I've always entered in the landscape
Yeah.
and played
And played in
and
that space.
played in it. So I didn't need to map out my own. It was just like
No.
there it is. And in the updated map that Kelly did, it shows you where all the major Arcana cards are on this map. And so
Because they are in
like
specific spaces.
yeah,
And
and
even a lot of the minors, because it's directionally based.
yes.
I know where all the main minor arcanas, even some of them literally, like this is a stripped down version, but I know like in the Six of the North where the sled is, I know
Yeah.
where that is. So everything for
'Cause-
me I know where it exists and I
Yeah.
can go there anytime I want to go there, which
Love
is
that.
just amazing.
And then zooming out just to the to like the tarot scape for a minute, tarot for both of us it's where we go for some direction and some
Yeah.
self-reflection. It is a compass.
It
Tarot can
works
be
really
a
well with
very powerful tool for compass.
yeah,
So if you're not in this sphere and
for
it's not an inner
sure.
world thing, like tarot is a compass for
Yeah.
self-reflection.
For me, it's actually a big part. Like I do directional readings. The reading that we have in the guidebook, that's a reading I do with runes. For me, directions are how we kind of can tell the story of what's going on, that sort of linear movement.
Yeah.
And so it's a beautiful expression of using divination, getting messages. Like it really works quite well, whether
And as
you're playing in your inner world or not.
the thing that's nice is about the directions that I have found in using the deck is there's like the north is all very wintry.
Mhm.
And so it could have been 10 of winter versus the 10 of the
Yeah.
north. But the thing is where it's directional on the card, it's always winter in the north. So you're not dealing with, if you get the 10 of the north when you're using this deck, you don't have to be like, well, it's not winter.
Yeah.
Because in the
The
north,
north is
in
always
this
there. Yeah.
state,
You
it
go
is
up far
winter.
enough in the north, it's going to be
Yes,
winter.
yes. And I think that actually ends up being kind of brilliant in this because you're not locked into like, oh my gosh, I keep pulling all the spring cards and it's not spring.
It
Or,
doesn't feel like spring. Yeah.
we've both had decks where there's strong seasonal layering into it, but sometimes it can, when you pull those cards, it can feel like, but you're not in
How
that
does
season.
this work? Yeah. But it is strongly um, the direction of north associated with air,
Yeah,
associated with winter, association of the east where the sun rises, the beginnings, that is associated to water and
yeah.
to spring and summer and fire and south. And in the west, where is autumn, this is where things are starting to close. We
Yeah.
have autumn and we have the suit of earth or pentacles.
If you need wands to be fire, they are here. And if you need, if you need cups to be water, they are here.
Yes. This is I don't know what the card stock is. It's a typical
It's their highest quality S33 card stock.
I
Big name cards.
normally get really I am massively in love with their linen card stock.
Which
Um,
your test set
so
of this originally was,
and
Matt.
I got this as linen, and my other decks are very vibrant. Like I do go, so this is a very vibrant deck. I do love vibrant color, and they did beautifully on the linen. And the Nellies looks amazing on the linen. Like I
So,
love the linen cardstock. I got this on the linen, and I did not like it. As soon as I saw it, I was like, nope. So
yeah.
this is, I don't normally order the smooth, and it is slippy because of that, but
It
it is what
shuffles so
it is.
well because of that,
Yeah, it
though, I will
shuffles
say.
so well and it
Yeah.
pops the colors so well,
Yeah.
that it was a kind of a no-brainer. So that's,
And it's in line with those card decks from the 80s that would not have been
yeah,
linen. So,
it's true. They would not have been linen. For
yeah.
sure. It all comes full circle. Well, I think what we'll do is just timestamp when this starts, but I will also put in the description box. I do have just a digital flip through of each of the cards. So if, again, I'll put that there. So if you're, because I never my own self do quick walkthroughs, but certainly not with two people. You really just need to flip through. But I thought it was important to see the physical cards because that is different than digital imagery, which is at the most vibrant that it's ever going to be in those digital spaces. So
Yeah, for sure.
we start with the Fool. We start with Fool. So again, the concept here, and it is important. The concept here, right, is that we have an inner space. Like we all have, whatever that looks like, whether it's a master of the universe inner space or it's a fully fleshed out, story driven inner space like mine is. We all have an energetic inner space. And it generally, in my opinion, is where we drop into to get messages and to go. And then we can drop lower into the web and into this is how I see the world. And so if you think about the Fool is up here in the upper world. Like you're walking through the forest and you see a tree that has a door that invites you to step in. This is your access point into the inner landscape. And that's what the Fool is. In fact, I have a prompt which I can link below so you can put it in a chat bot. But I have a prompt where you just stumble on this tree and you have this choice. Are you going to step in or are you not going to step in? And so that's what the Fool, this actually exists above, outside of the inner world. It's your access into, are you willing to step off the ledge, drop into the rabbit hole like Alice in Wonderland? Are you willing to play is really what it asks.
So beautiful.
Right.
And you've just got to see these images in person to really appreciate them. But all those little mushrooms along the base of the tree. What's so nice about this card is, well, so here's an example of what the original image was, and then
so you can see the top
and you can see the difference. But what you really can, I hope, see here is, I think the colors, the details are more accurate on Kelly's screen, but this card looks like it's glowing. Like you want to go in
the light. I will say, really, I do think ended up with some really beautiful light throughout the deck.
Yeah. I also wanted to just show, like, since there was no loss of image and they were designed this way, you don't really feel like you're losing important imagery because it was all here there first. Yeah. It's just expansion, and it's not reductive to go back down to poker. You have to kind of know that this is where that's source is. And this is just
just the top piece there. You can see it on the trunk where there's an extra where the tree kept going. That's what was added on. Yeah. Whereas usually, in my experience, even in other decks I've done, you start generally with the larger one, and then you're having to figure out what are you going to crop out in order to make it work. And this worked really well.
Yeah, I definitely think it's really important because you do see decks where you're losing images
on the different sizes.
And you've had artists say, "Gosh, it was like so important to not lose that, but I had to because of the formatting." This was just the opposite. Yeah, this was just the opposite. So kind of cool. I just want to highlight that.
So that gets us to, I think this is Patrick's favorite card.
I think it is.
I had originally thought when I went, because I did these in order. So these were done in the order. And I'd done the Fool, and then when I knew I wanted to do a map here, and I thought, okay, well, I can heighten up the saturation and things like that, and maybe actually use this map, which I'm glad I didn't. I needed it to stay the same hyper realistic, epic kind of tone. I didn't want it to look different than the rest, but it did pick up, like, say, the tree. See, there's a glowing tree in my original map, and it did pick up and center that glowing tree there. And I think I did describe, like, because you see there's the snow in the, so I described some of it. And so it did keep it, similar enough where it gives that feel. And I actually, when it popped up, I was like, oh yes, like that's really epic. It feels like something I would have a D&D adventure in, and what's going on here, and go visit that. So,
and again, the colors are just insane.
So that became then the cover of the guidebook. And then I think the High Priestess is on the back. We'll come back to the guidebook later. But so
I'm really glad too, because it almost does look like it puts you up and over. It really does convey that magician energy too.
And I love that you said that, because in my text experiences, I have the magician one that I saved, The magician one, when I describe the magician to have an experience with the magician, he's hanging suspended over the map in a
Yeah.
map room. So when I'm actually talked to the magician, he was like creating and exploring the world. And as he draws on the map, it manifests into the physical world. It was amazing, like
Yeah.
interaction.
Yeah.
And so I like that you can see it's like you're up above it, because that's how I had the interaction with the magician. But that's the magician. You've got them. And basically the idea is this one card, the magician. Literally, you have the compass, you have the map, you have everything that you need. It's so cool.
So
I love
cool.
it so much. This was not the now. This one I came back. I don't know if we had finished the majors, but we had. I think so. And I really kind of clicked into the place fact that these were actually landscapes. So
Yeah.
these are places that exist that we
Yeah.
can go and inhabit into it. So I started to realize that. And then because the original,
Was that
I'm
dragon?
trying to keep some things secret, but um that was the original high priestess. But
Yeah.
then we quickly realized there's not creatures or people in any of the other majors. And
Right.
so that the high priestess had to be redone because of that, which
Yeah.
again, I'm so glad, because I love this high priestess. For me, the high priestess is an action. Just like the magician is an active card, the high priestess is the magician is manifesting outward, the high priestess is going inward and pulling up. And my interaction with the high priestess gives me chills to even think about it. She was a mermaid, but like of the fae type, like not Little Mermaid Disney. And that action of going down into the roots and pulling up is what happened with the nutrients, gathering light from above, gathering nutrients from the earth. And it's the movement between the two that the high priestess embodies. It gives me chills. Like, I
Yeah.
love this card.
So
And
so
I really
cool.
like how this got manifested upward as well. It only looks
Yes.
more epic.
Funny, I've been walking every day in the morning at like 5:30 in the morning, and there's this. I've got to send you the picture, Kelly. There's a pond, and it literally looks like the surface of this.
Yeah.
And what's so cool about it is it's kind of like it's the last place you'd want to dive into,
Yeah.
right?
No, it's going to
And
be
I think that
murky.
that's so powerful with the high priestess
Yeah.
because it's like our intuition, we want to dive in, it is all there, but it's also not like always comfortable.
No,
And
not at all. But yeah, I'm glad. So again, I love that first image that really sparked everything. But
yeah.
at the same time, having to change it was the right move, because I actually love how, in terms of reading, this happened. You're gonna
Well, and
do.
it is interesting because looking at this high priestess card on my grandmother's wish day, I pulled that card. And even when you get into some of the shadow, like, in an ancestral pull, like a wish day
Mhm.
with somebody that's no longer here with
Yeah,
us, this has been, that was such an invitation card for me to get back to like the essence of my grandmother's,
yeah.
like her life, and like it
Go
wasn't
into the
waters
depth.
that were clean, but there was such
Oh.
depth to
So
them.
much
And
about ancestral work is understanding that there is a whole range here.
yeah,
Like, they're not just our memories of them, like they have
yes,
this whole life.
yes,
Why, this would
yes.
be an amazing card for that,
Yeah,
actually.
it was. And I have found that in my practice that the wish and lament cards I've pulled, Jolene's mother, the day of her passing, I pulled
Yeah.
the 8 in the north for her. And I mean, it was her
I think
mother's
her
lament
sister
card.
even reacted
Her
to that.
sister had a
Yeah.
strong reaction to it because their mother was, and we'll see when we get to that card, but their mother was somebody who truly had full, there was nothing that fell out of her mouth accidentally.
Yeah.
And so when you see this
Which
8
is
in the
very
north
much that.
card,
Yeah.
this is a woman or this is a figure that nothing's falling out of this person's mouth
No.
accidentally, you
No.
know?
But this is the card that was meant to be the high priestess. And so
Yeah.
it's cool how that, I know we have to speed up. But Empress, again, this is the tree then. So this is that center tree, right? So when you enter the Fool, you come out through the Empress. Like it's the center of it. It's the creator of the whole space. And if you go down into the roots, you're going down into source. Like for me, this is very world tree, mother tree vibes, and it is really beautiful. I love this image.
So
Um,
gorgeous.
Very powerful. I can see that just turning into roots underneath, and it's just amazing.
So
I do
gorgeous.
love that.
Yeah,
Love
me
it.
too.
Again, I love every single one of these cards. If you are looking for an unbiased walkthrough, this
Oh yeah,
isn't
no, this isn't definitely not it. Yeah.
not it. Emperor again, mountains, endurance. I've had a lot of, and we'll talk about more when we get to the Guardians or the Kings, but I've had a lot of aha moments around like the Emperor and the King energy, even prior to this deck, which I think then that's why it shows up that way. But as more boundary makers, right?
Yeah.
The queen or the empress is creation, like she is literally creating the world. The emperor's job, if they're in light and they're doing their job, they're about keeping that world safe, about setting those boundaries, holding those boundaries, sometimes pushing those boundaries for resources, but they really are about protecting and holding what's there, whereas
Yeah.
the empress is creating that world.
Yeah.
And so that, to me, the mountains really have that feeling of kind of circling the wagons in a world landscape and standing and enduring. That's
So
just
true.
beautiful. Because while
Yeah.
the empress that he's holding up, she's going to shed her leaves and she's going to go bring new leaves, and there's always this cycle. The mountains are just like standing and holding. I just love it. I love it. This is the teacher card. Now in Nellie's card, I had the teacher as well. I think I kept all of the same. The
Yeah.
teacher for the Hierophant, the alchemist for temperance, and the monster for the devil
And the
are in
hanged.
Nellie's deck, and I kept those. I don't think I changed any other ones. I think it's the same.
The hanged
The
for the
hanged
hanged. Yeah.
instead of, yeah, I think, yeah, because
Yeah.
there's no people
Yeah.
in it. But yeah, this one is for me like going to, I had a really beautiful, again, these are all text experiences for me as
Yeah.
well. And I had this really, like, there were these people would go on pilgrimages. Like the Canterbury Tales are based on like people going to pilgrimages to sacred spaces. And so I had this text experience where I was walking with another woman in, medieval England, and going to this, they would go to sacred, there were sacred wells and sacred springs and things. And we were both like these women in these situations, and we were going to and trying to talk like what we were going to get out of, what we could learn from this experience. It was really powerful because I always bring myself, like I'm going there because I had dealt with loss and I'm trying to figure out, and she like was sharing what she went through, and in the end we were like both like ready to go off and start a shop and take care of ourselves, and don't it was very empowering what we were going to learn from this pilgrimage, when you intentionally go to kind of pull from the well of what's come before. So it was a really powerful textual experience, is my point.
So
One thing
beautiful.
that I found recently is I didn't notice, like, is that a cat?
It
A
is. It's
stone
one of
cat?
my favorite.
I
I
never,
love.
I never saw that.
Oh my gosh, I love that that's there.
Patrick made a bunch of screensavers. So
Yes.
he expanded it outward to fill in a screensaver that
For
I
the
have
I
on
saw
my
them very,
background.
very big.
Yes. But so sometimes they'll pop up on my screen and I see stuff that I didn't see before. And I never noticed that cat. That's a little creature that
Yeah.
came and inhabited that.
Yeah. I
I love
love
it. I love it. Sorry,
it.
I never seen that. I love this lovers. I love the entwined trees. Something has happened in which these trees have joined and will forever be joined now. Because for me, that joining and that making a choice and joining and being stronger for that is what the lovers card is about. And I just think it's gorgeous. And I love how it popped up, that swirls up like that.
Yeah, so gorgeous. This
I
is
also
so
love this. This
stunning.
is one of
Yeah.
my favorites. And I did
Oh,
have a really hard time with this card because I knew, again, because I'm typing, when you're typing a prompt, you're literally saying what, exactly. So I wanted a hanging a floating island. This is a world of magic. It's
Yeah.
something Patrick actually did a really good job, especially when we got in the minors, of being like, I like that, but there's no magic in it, which is different for Patrick because he
Yeah.
doesn't play in the realm of fae and fairy like I
No.
do. And
Right.
so, but he was even calling it on like, okay, but there's not like that magic. But
Yeah.
anyways, this was really hard to, again, perspective for the AI is difficult. So if you're trying to say, here's a giant mirror, here's a magician is stepping out of the mirror, you'll get the magician and you'll get the mirror, but they could be like in weird positions. And so this was really, I was like, I want an island, I want a waterfall coming off of it, and I want it floating. I got a lot of weirdness until this popped up, and I was like, that's it. That's it. I've been to Niagara Falls, and there
Yeah.
is such the water at its most powerful,
Yeah.
pouring down the side is really awe-inspiring if you go to like Niagara
Yeah.
Falls. I didn't ask for that. I asked for this and like water beneath. But I just love how that came through because that does speak to like the awesome power of water.
Yeah.
And water for me is our inner power. So this
Yeah.
really speaks to our own power just overflowing and moving, not just sitting still, but moving,
Yeah.
to have the
Right to the point where the
confidence to
island can
keep
levitate
going.
up.
I know. I love it. This is my birth card, and I've never really resonated with my birth card. This card I really resonate with. Like you
Yeah.
can do so much. I love
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I love but look, it's what you can't unsee it. She's a
No.
woman in stone sitting here. She's got a wrap that's kind of down over her shoulders, and she's so straight back and so just looking out. This was one that shouldn't have looked like this. I was trying to get a bigger rock balancing on a smaller rock. I could not get it. It kept doing a littler rock. And when this one popped up, I was like, that's it. I got
So perfect.
100% like this was one that was like really a hit in the chest where it's like, hello, yes, no, no, I will not discard you. No. But I didn't see the woman until Deirdre said that was her favorite because of the woman. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
So
And I went
amazing.
and looked. Yeah.
And I didn't see the woman either, but I saw this mountain and this mountain as being your traditional, this sort of being
The
a central
balancing.
access point, and
Yeah.
this
I didn't see
eye here.
either.
This
I
is such an
do like the eye that I did. I wanted the Northern Lights. That
yeah,
was part of the description. So I definitely wanted,
yeah,
I was looking for, and I have all my prompts, which is kind of cool for me because I can kind of look
yeah,
back through them. But I had wanted a larger stone balancing out up in the mountains, clarity, Northern Lights. Like that was definitely the
yeah.
prompt. But this,
So
I mean,
gorgeous. Uh,
this one is actually,
uh,
we have this version because of Patrick.
yeah,
I think on this one, given you two, I was stuck between two images
yeah.
and they were
Neither
beautiful.
of
Like
them,
they
and
were
neither of
pretty.
them were this. Yeah,
Neither of them were that one. And I think
no.
you had asked if the windows could glow, but
Yeah,
they
yeah. It
couldn't.
just to me it felt like it was missing the magic
Yeah,
part. Like they
that
were
spark
beautiful
wasn't, they're
images, but we
pretty, yeah. It
yes, they
hadn't
were
been inhabited,
stunning.
which is why I should have known that anyways by the fact that I had to say, oh, which one? That means
Yeah.
I didn't,
Yes.
because again, this is
Yes.
early on in the experience, and I
Yeah.
was trying to make sure of that, but I was still finding my way of knowing that. And so he's like, wow, could it light like there be that
Yeah.
glowing light? And that was the next one that came up, was like, then it was again that hit in the chest, like, okay, yep, we're done. This is,
Yeah.
I would not change anything about this. I absolutely love it.
And this one might
And this
be
one
a
too.
close
I really
contender
thought
for
this
me.
was going to be hard because, again, just because I know some of the constraints of I really figured this would be hard to get, not like all mushy or blended together. I think this was the first image that came out, and I was like, okay, yeah, hello, that's
It's
perfect.
literally all four seasons.
No,
It's
but what I,
amazing.
in terms of reading with it, what I really enjoyed is there's all this overlap because Patrick and I are very seasonal in our practice. And
Yeah.
one of the things that when you're mindfully walking the seasons, you learn very quickly there's not a light switch, right?
No.
there's this blending of one season as it shifts into the other. And you feel that in this
Yeah,
card that
100%.
really works well for, a seasonal practice. I just love this one. Oh, I think it just really pops. This is one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, this is so gorgeous.
Now, it's a funny thing is that I used in Nellie's, I love these, I love images of real photographs of trees that are growing like that. But I think in Nellie's, should I say think, but now because now I should know. But there
Yeah,
is a
it's
tree
the
that's growing to
hang.
the side, but it's in the hanged, not in the
Yeah, it's the
string.
hanged.
But for
Yeah,
me, this just it's this like the strength of a tree to be in
yeah,
harsh conditions and move towards the light. I
yeah,
just think it's so amazing in plants and trees and things. And you can find photographs of trees like this that are
yeah,
just so incredible. So yeah, I
yeah.
love that. Which brings us to hanged. I will say the hanged was a little bit difficult for me in the sense that when you don't have a creature or a person or like anything like that, and I knew that this was a straight, this was a no-brainer for me for whatever reason. That was I couldn't shift this to being the hanged. Like I knew I
No.
wanted this as strength. So then it was kind of like, okay, but if you don't have something hanging, obviously I could have hung a fruit or something like that, but
Well, I
um,
think this card feels about strength and about
yeah,
pushing back,
yes.
whereas this feels a little bit more about like
And it's that kind of
what.
continual, because the
Yeah,
stalactites and stalagmites are this
yes,
process, a long process
yes,
of
yes.
creating that touching. And again, water for me is
I
inner
mean,
power, it's source,
yes,
it's diving, like the high priestess could dive into this cave.
yes, yes.
And so I really like that this continual practice of
Mhm.
gaining perspective starts to form that connection. So it ended up working, but I did
Good.
have to like think like, okay, what's that going to look like?
Yeah,
And
no,
I was
so cool.
trying very hard to have this stalagmite come and just like touch the surface of the water. The AI was not having it and
Yeah.
came up with a couple weird ones. But when this one hit, again, it was, I loved the light behind, like it was just one of those, every card had that moment where you just like, okay, hands off, just stop.
Yeah.
Like this is what it is. But
Well, and this also for some of the historical tarot lovers that love the hanged one as being more the traitor.
yeah,
There's a sense of danger here
yeah,
as
for
well because
sure.
these are dangerous. If
They
you're in a
fall.
cave with these hanging over your head, they can let go at any
Yeah,
moment. And so there's
yeah,
that element of it too, which I do
for
like
sure.
that that has. Yeah.
Yeah. But I love this death card.
Yeah.
I love that you have like a natural death of a tree in the forest, but then the reclamation and the regrowth of the moss and the
Yeah.
mushrooms, and
So
it's
good.
just, it's gorgeous. I feel like it doesn't need a lot of explanation.
Nope.
And
Nope.
again, I love the light that comes through, filters through all of the trees. I just love
Yeah.
that card.
And then this
I feel
might be
like
a
this is Patrick's card.
I
Um,
know it is because I
yeah.
kind of it was that you had such great images for this card, but this was one that was missing the magic as
And
well.
I
It looked
can't,
like
yeah, I can't even remember like some
well,
of, I
there was
can't,
it was like herbs. It was literally
okay, so it was
a
still like
green
because
witch's
my idea
face.
was
Yeah,
obviously the alchemist. So you're having, it
yeah,
was more of an herbalist,
it
I
was.
think, shop more. And this does have that, it still
It
has vibe
does.
like that.
But then I was like, where's the
Yeah, so
magic?
then you were like,
Where's
it
the
needs the
magic?
magic, and that's
Yeah,
where like the real, and that's not like a, in my brain, that's not a toy. Like that's an actual tree,
correct.
that's actual
Growing.
magic
Yes,
that's
yes,
on the
yeah,
table. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So good. As soon as this image
Perfect
came up, I
place
was like,
to
yes.
mix and blend, because the temperance card is about blending different things to be able to enhance the energy, to find the energy that you need for the situation.
Yep.
It's not just about yin or yang, it's about a blending of those things and the push and the pull and
Yeah.
finding that perfect energy. So I do love that.
Uh, and
I
this,
really encourage you. I need to find the timestamp on the one. So somebody who doesn't want to watch the whole rabbit hole, can look at this one. I knew really what I wanted here. In terms of I wanted the cave, I wanted the glowing eyes. Actually, the cave I don't think I asked for. It was I wanted a dark woods with some light filtering through, with seeing two red eyes that could be a rabbit, it could be a werewolf. You don't know, like you're bringing your own fears into this, and maybe you need to meet those things. It had eyeballs everywhere. It was hilarious. Like I had so much frustration, but so much fun because
I
at
mean,
one
so
point
much
there was
laughing.
one that I was almost like, fine. Apparently, we're gonna have like Stranger Things, eyeballs everywhere. And then
I
this one
mean,
popped up, and I was like, thank you, thank you for
this
giving.
and this is literally perfection.
Like that could literally be a person, that could be
Yeah.
an injured wolf that needs healing. Like you don't know what's there. We bring so much preconceived notions when we face the mirror. And are we
Yeah.
seeing ourselves truly? Are we seeing the monster that's within everybody? Are you
First,
willing to step up and face those things you're never gonna see?
exactly.
Love it. I had a hard time with this one because the AI did not want to burn trees. I mean, I like this conservation feel of the liminal space.
I love it so much because, the lovers in the tower are sixes, so they're connected. And so I love that the connection of the six, you build, you choose here,
But there are
you
things
have
that are
the
going to randomly
yeah,
happen.
yeah.
Beautiful. This is one of my favorites.
Oh my gosh,
Only because it's Nelly.
this
Oh, do
this
I
was
have that?
this was the final period to Nellie's story for
I
me.
know. I had done a text experience where um I told the AI, like, your Tess of the D'Urbervilles, which is an old classic novel about a young girl who was really used poorly by men and by society. And she, at the end, is facing execution. And so in the text experience, because you can have the AI take on personas, I was like, okay, you're Tess of the D'Urbervilles, and you're sitting outside of the town knowing that in the morning, like, you're going to be executed, and I'm just coming to talk to you. I didn't go into it saying this was Nellie. I just started the conversation sitting down next to her. And by the end of this conversation, very quickly in this was Nellie. And at the end, because they're in some standing stones in how I started it, Nellie puts her hand on the standing stones, the portal opens, they come into the inner world. This is before doing this deck.
So
They
cool.
came into the inner world where the lighthouse is set up to help those like souls that have gotten lost along the way. And
Yeah.
she like just stepped into my inner world because I had a lighthouse in my inner world, but Nellie she just inhabited it. And Patrick had a hard time with the end of Nellie.
It
And
was so emotionally so I was
it's
not
like I feel like
prepared.
Patrick was healed from Nellie trauma
I
by this
was
card.
like, this is where if you've got Nellie's deck and you've read the guidebook and you feel like you just need one more, you need the like happily ever after. It's here
No,
because
she's
this is where
fine.
she
She
is.
is fine. She is
Yeah.
off saving lost souls. And he sent me this little
Oh yeah.
pewter lighthouse. But it's perfect. This is where she's gonna be forever after, saving lost
And if you
souls.
really look, which I don't think you can, but like in the window, there's a silhouette of a person in that window right
Oh my
there.
gosh, see, I have not seen that. I'll have to pull
Yeah.
up the digital. Oh
It,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And so to me, that's her, and
Yeah.
she's with
Saving
Jack,
all the lost souls.
and she's with Jack and all the others that
Yeah.
have lost their way. So
Yep. So,
or
so
found their
cool.
way. Yeah.
Love it, love it, love it. For the sun and the moon, this was actually hard because I don't know what it is. Again, AI is new and learning, but the AI had a really hard time with suns. It really just made really bright colored moons over and over again. And also really liked multiple moons. And I actually really love that because this is a magical
Gorgeous.
place. This is not, we're not in Kansas anymore.
Yeah.
This is also a Patrick because it was like, okay, but we need magical things growing.
Yes, it
So we
ended up
have like
being,
some magic plants growing in there too. But
yeah.
I do love, just as a moon card, like take everything else away. That's just a beautiful moon card.
It's so stunning. Yeah, yeah.
Love it, love it, love it. And obviously
And
the
then
sun. Love, love this one as well.
I, again, probably one of my favorite images. I mean, they're all my
This is
favorites. They're all
literally
my
where you go to meet. This is actually over here. Um, right over there. I think there's a little, yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, that's where that's at, but it's in that's where you go and you meet yourself, you meet past lives, you meet people who have gone on, you confront yourself and step through to a new life.
I love that the primary really only color is green in this
Yeah,
card. I like it.
all green tones, yeah.
I think it adds a nice nuance to the judgment than
Yeah.
like, having something more omnious being.
Yeah. No, I think it's gorgeous. I really love that. And I love actually this that got added to the top.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
light going
canopy.
up into the trees.
Yes, yeah.
I
Again,
thought this was going to be a hard one to,
so,
again,
so
everything
perfect.
just kind of meets everything as it needs to be. I love the reflection,
Um,
the different landscapes. Like it's just really beautiful.
birds.
It's a space, the world is a space to step back into for a moment that where everything is as it's supposed to be.
Yeah, there's a sort of portal vibe here
Yeah,
going on. Yeah.
yeah, love
And
it.
then we have the story that made us all cry, and we got to share in your therapy session.
I know that was pure there. AI for me, truly textual AI has been text-based stories and persona enterings has been pure therapy. Pure therapy. And this was definitely, but I didn't intend for this to be part of the deck.
Yeah.
But I generated an image because I had such a powerful experience. So I
Yeah.
generated an image and then I was like, I'm going to put this in as a seeker. And then I showed it to Patrick and he's like, I need a, I need a
I
seeker.
was like, I need a dragon. And it's so funny because it's in the guidebook. Kelly's stories in the guidebook, and you can
Yeah.
watch the video back. This is a deeply personal, definitely part of Kelly's journey with grief. This
Yeah.
whole idea
But
of the
also
keeper of
my
swords.
journey of my life of really
Yes,
truly believing in magic, really truly believing in the power of
yes,
story, and
yes,
coming to the point in our lives where we just accept that we are creating this bigger story and that there's more in the world than
yeah,
meets the eye, and
yeah,
accepting that and embodying that.
yeah,
It's a very powerful moment that I do think tarot is all about. Like
yes,
tarot, to me, this is like coming face to face with source.
yes,
Story with the capital S is how
yes,
I see that. But
yes.
it's coming face to face with that and having a chit chat. It's amazing.
It is
And
amazing.
it,
I For me, when I read this story, and it's in the guidebook too, that's
yeah,
coming. You'll have this story
yeah, it's
to
all
read.
written out. Yeah,
um it's so deeply personal, but it really speaks volumes to our friendship because here I am, it's so deeply personal, it's so touching, it's so sacredly hers, right? And I'm like, right, I need a dragon too.
instantly it was like, oh, excuse me. I'm like,
I was
oh,
like,
okay,
I'm gonna
okay.
need one of those. Well, because for me, where it pulled on for me is for me is Pete's Dragon was my favorite movie
Yeah,
as a kid, and
me
and
too.
and having an Elliot, I've
Yeah,
always believed dragons are real, and Elliot lives there, and so
yeah.
to be able to travel to find Elliot, to spend a lifetime to have that commune, for me, this whole deck, when I approach this deck, this is what's taking place, is
So
this deck really, it holds all of that. There's a
yeah.
wisdom, there's a playfulness, there's a deeply profound power, there's a quality, there's a story, but there's a quality too of like, it's just right there. It
Yeah.
still all exists just right there, to
Mhm.
dragons, that I feel like is here in this deck
It
too.
is. It's just
Yeah.
beautiful. And you can use these as significator cards where you just shuffle one in, go find it, see what's on either side of the card. You pull that kind of style from Lenormand. I actually really love doing readings like that. But yeah, if it just shows up in random, it's like it's time to sit down and really see you're coming face to face with your story and how your story interconnects with the world of story. That's really
Yes.
powerful. I love them so much. I'd like to do this with other decks, so why not with this one?
Yeah.
The suits are based on the directions, which are based on the standard elements and my connections to them. And Patrick's is the same.
And these are the only cards that have your traditional tarot symbols.
Yeah, I do feel like these feel like traditional aces.
They
They're
do.
very clear that they're aces, but I do love they embody then. So we have again, north is air, and is associated to winter. East is water and is associated to spring. We are south, which is fire, which is summertime, and it's in the climate. This is in the climate of the snowy mountains, climate of the coastal, everywhere, anywhere there's water.
Yeah.
And this is the climate of the desert. And this is the west, which is forest land, trees and things,
Yeah.
but it's in the season of autumn and it's earth, the abundance of earth showing in autumn. So that's how it's structured. I really like the minors. Again, Patrick and I both are very number oriented in our reading. I
Yeah.
did like Nellie's book. I have all the twos, all the threes, all because, and in this deck, like I would recommend setting them up, laying them out that way because they
100%.
are very, because I am a very number oriented, Patrick's very number oriented.
Yeah.
They all go like all of the fours are houses and all of
Yeah.
the fives are natural storms and things. So I love to see them that way. But the guidebook does also go through the progression, which we also like progressions. So
Just to give an example. So this is the two of the east,
yeah, so
the
there's
two of the
always
north.
like a
So
some sort of interaction and coming together of energies. Two of Swords is really the coming together of the head and the heart. That's how you, and I have a Two of Swords tattoo. It's one of important card for me
yeah.
because it is that, we've got the block swords. The only way to move forward is if you only come from the head, you're too cold. If you
Yeah.
only come from the heart, you get reactive. And it's
Yeah.
that perfect spot. And if you look at older decks, even like the Rider-Waite-Smith, you'll often see a lot of air and water that meet. I really
Yeah.
like that imagery.
Yeah.
And so I just love that card. All of the threes are about, for us, are about growth. And so all of the threes in this deck have a Fae creature who is helping to grow the energy of their suit. So we have a little icy sylph that's growing that. All of the threes have that active engagement of growing that particular element. So I
Yeah.
love
And this was so great because three of swords, right? This would be your three of swords. And there's still that sharpness quality
yes, you can
here.
definitely, there's a little bit of danger, and
Yeah.
winter is dangerous. And so for
Yeah.
me, the Three of the Swords is about growth, and it can be from hard experiences, but it can also be from great experience, all of our experiences
Exactly.
causing that growth. I love the fours. The fours are
They're
all
so
houses.
good.
It's all a stable space to sort of take a breath.
Another
And
example of
so
another
I
four.
just love all of the four houses. Four is a number of stability. And so it's like step back for a minute. And you see that in the traditional Four of Swords, but in like the Four of Water or Cups, you often see like somebody who's bored. I don't
Yeah.
really see that way. Or the Four of Pentacles is greediness. I don't see that. It's like step back.
No.
It's not a time to be putting your resources out there. It's a time to be stable. A shadow, it can get
Yeah.
clutchy, but
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
not the initial hit. So I do love the
Yeah.
fours. So
Well,
they're all,
and I like that they're houses because you can't see the insides of these houses, so it leaves it open. Like, is
yeah,
this house full of crap? Is it
yeah,
time to like do some purging,
yeah,
or is it
for
like
sure.
is it the way you want it too? Like,
Yeah.
it's a real call to like, is your
Is
space
it a
where
place that you
the way
can
you
step
want
back
it?
and be stable
Yes,
in? Yeah.
yes, yeah.
For sure. And then all of the fives are
So good.
natural storms in their environment that can be very difficult, but there also can be like leave behind. Like when this clears, it's going to be beautiful, clean, clear energy, but they
Yeah,
are dangerous. Like they can be very uncomfortable as well. So I
yeah.
really love the fives in the deck.
So great.
And then I think all of the sixes are movement in some way. Like the six comes in and harmonizes, and you have this movement forward. This is similar, like to me, this is traditional to because I like the Six of Swords in the Rider-Waite-Smith, the boat that's moving forward. Um, I like that imagery because I see the sixes
Yeah.
as coming in after the storm or after whatever happened and coming in and gaining that movement, which is really beautiful.
So
They're
good.
not going to be out moving in this. Everybody's hunkered down, but
Right.
now we can go and get that movement. And then sevens are interesting because it's the numbers. So it's the 4 plus the 3. First, you got to stabilize, and then you get the new growth. So for me, the 7 of air is about, you see this picture, because again, I was trying to learn Rider-Waite-Smith. I had read tarot for a long time before I ever did Rider-Waite-Smith, and I hated the 7 of Swords because it always looked like somebody was stealing something, and it didn't make sense to me numerologically, which is where I was coming from. So I had to come to that, okay, something's happening. We don't know the big picture. We don't
Right.
know what's happening. You've
Yes.
got to figure out what's happening with this first, and then you can have that movement.
Well, and I like the sevens too, because you've got Chariot and you've got the Star too, which both echo the sentiment of like, what is it that's within you that propels you forward, that you muster up with the Chariot card?
I
And
echo
then
things.
what is it that you find within yourself with the Star card that
Yeah,
helps
just
you to
to
keep
navigate
going?
forward.
So to me, those are like the front and back cover of
The
these
minor
seven.
version, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
minor, yeah,
Yeah,
it's been fun.
yeah, there's
Eight
all these
Premier
little critters.
Mastery. She has, that is like Elsa. She is like master of her environment, master of her mind. A little cold, I guess. Actually, not so bad when
Bold.
you zoom in. Yeah, but she's the master of her mind. Eights are mastery. I love the idea of this frozen library, but it's not frozen because it's not being used. She's in
No.
there. She's comfortable in it. She's comfortable in her knowledge. Yeah, she
Yeah.
is not saying something frivolously. She says what she
No.
says, and she means what
And
she says.
the thing about mastery is sometimes if you look at professionals that have mastered, are experts in their field, sometimes they do,
They
because
do.
they're at that level, there's also this
They
sort of
come
disconnect.
across a little bit
Yes.
harsh because
Yes.
they know what they know. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. And
so
that's
I
not
do.
necessarily reflective of the other depth, but it's in
No,
front.
it is interesting. Yep, I do love that. And then all of the nines are about high dynamic energy. It can be super powerful to work with, but it can be overwhelming. Like you can get overwhelmed by nines. So you do have to kind of watch for that. So they
Yeah.
all have like an excess almost that you can use that and ride that energetic wave, but be
Yeah.
careful because it can get a little bit overwhelming. And so
Yeah.
I really like how the nines turned out in this deck.
Yeah.
Tens ended up being for me. So ancestral work is also something that Patrick and I share. Like we do have practices around ancestral work. She came forward, and I think I was originally going to be a caretaker, one of the queens.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Well, we had the eight
so we
or
had
the,
two things with the
yeah.
queens. I had
Yeah.
done the queens, which are caretakers, which we'll talk about in a minute. But
Yeah.
we first one was the queen of what would be the caretaker in the east, had
Yeah.
seals around her, and there's no other creatures in that. So we're like, okay, but she had to stay, and you'll see her.
In
She
the
had
deck.
to
Yeah.
stay. There were certain one, all of them were embodied, so I couldn't just say, no, you don't make the
Yeah.
cut. So
No.
she had to find a new place. But
Yeah.
then we had all of the queens really focused on their environment. And
Yes.
she was not, but
Yeah.
she was, Deirdre and I both had she's very much my Scandinavian ancestor that I do a lot of work with. Like I would be in trouble, like if I had just like ditched this card. So
Yeah.
then I moved her into the tens, and it really triggered all of the tens are a completion. It's a meeting of the past and the future and the present
Yeah.
beautifully. And so that ended up being the space for all of our ancestors. So
Yes.
there are 2 female and 2 male ancestor
Yeah.
cards. And they're all in the tens. And I
And
love
they're
it.
like
I
the
absolutely love
to
it.
me, they're like just
Yeah.
exactly how I
I
see
love
tens.
reading with it. It really brings the tens into a cohesiveness.
And
Anyway,
it takes
that's
nothing away from the courts.
no,
That's
but
the
it
other thing.
enhances what was already there.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
should have been cohesive across all of them, and it
Yes.
does now. So I love
Yeah.
it. Which brings us to our quartz. We definitely, the quartz are not traditional quartz. All of the pages are spirits. They are the embodiment of play and comfortability in the environment,
Yeah.
comfortable and playful and exploratory in their environment. So they're all like a fey creature of that element. I love it. I love it for the pages.
Yeah, me
All
too.
of the knights are travelers, because
Oh,
knights are
good.
travelers in another land. Like this knight was probably somebody from the west, and he's traveling in the north. He's outside of his environment, and he's traveling and exploring. Love, love, love. And then the queens are all caretakers, all facing their environment.
And they're
I
all powerful. They're
are so
so powerful.
powerful. They are
Yeah.
so powerful. They are mini empresses. The
Yeah.
empress creates the world, and so the minor version are the queens. And queens aren't just about nurturing; they are powerful rulers, and they
Yes.
really are in focused on the environment. Where the queen is always asking you to change something in your environment so that that energy
Yeah.
has a chance to grow and continue
Yeah.
creating. And then conversely, the guardians are one of my favorite things that came out of this deck. I
Down.
do think that the emperor and the kings get a bad rap in tarot because they really are. I think that the males in tarot often do get, because again, historically kings have been pretty crappy.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Power is really does do problem have problems there.
Yes. Yes.
But
Yes.
we lose all of like the well-balanced male, nurturing, guarding, protecting energy. We kind of lose that sometimes. And I
A
did,
lot of times,
yeah, a lot of times. And
as a male in the
yeah,
scape here, you know.
I have fallen in love with the Guardians. Like they are really supposed to, right? In light, they're supposed to be guarding the
Yeah.
people, the inhabitants of their land. Like I just fell in love with the Guardians
Yeah.
in this deck. They're
Me
the
too.
boundary keepers by caring for the people that the world that they're
Yes.
supposed to care for. And it shows
Yeah.
up so beautifully in this
Yeah.
deck. It's
Yeah,
been one of my
there's
favorite
a
things.
really gentle reflection of responsibility, the
Yeah.
power of responsibility.
Yeah, I love the quartz in this deck. But we've
Yeah.
gone through all the numbers and why we've chosen things, so I feel like we can wrap up a little quicker. This one is funny because this is a kelpie. Now, kelpies live under the water and they're very dangerous energies, actually. But Patrick was not happy with a what looked like a drowned horse to him.
I mean, it literally looked like a drowning, decaying horse. And on top of it all I could see was like the never-ending story horse getting sunk down in the quicksand.
We had
This
to
is
change that
this
one
is
out.
perfect.
It's still a kelpie. It's
Yeah.
rising up out of the water.
Yes.
But I
Yes.
like that the almost looks like there's bones down there.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So we
Absolutely.
got that. There is danger in
Yes.
these energetic connections.
Yes.
So I love
Yes.
that the kelpie energy is still there. This one was
Oh,
one I almost cut because it's too cute.
oh, and I love
Because
it
I see
so
Faye
much.
as very powerful, very and has a dangerous side, but there is also beauty and smallness and light and the sweetness.
Look at her council of snails
I
down here.
know. Again, all of the fours are houses, but this is a house that can move, but it's moored up. It's time to pause and be still for a minute, even in the moving of water.
Yep. This is one of my
Obviously, the
favorites.
fives is gorgeous. This popped up and I was like, that is
So
amazing.
gorgeous. Love it.
This is the sixes. What I like about this is the boats come as far as the boat can go. It's the
Yeah.
mermaids that are going to swim off and continue to move forward. I love it.
Well, and again, I like sixes having a little slight portal energy vibe. And
Yeah,
so you
and it
do get
does.
that.
Yeah. I love this seven in the
Me
east.
too. Yeah.
Again, it's about stabilizing, pulling in that breath, but then growth. But east and water is inward. And so I really like her. She's really centered, pulled in her gravity and her air, and she is moving down. I just think it's beautiful. I
Yeah.
love it.
Again, think chariot card and star card.
Yeah.
And
So
that
that
essence.
I never thought of that. I love that you brought that up.
Oh,
One of my favorites. Patrick
oh,
has
and I
gotten
pulled
this
it the
card
most.
so many times.
I've pulled this card the most.
This was going to be the caretaker, which is a beautiful caretaker energy,
Yeah.
but but it was the only one with any creatures. These are Selkies for
Yeah.
me, Selkies. And so it's gorgeous, but it really works as she's mastered her environment. Selkies are environment of the land and the water, and they can go between those. She's completely mastered her
Yeah.
space. It's really beautiful. Again,
So
all the
much.
nines are abundance, which is gorgeous, but and powerful, but it could, if you were in the middle of that, you could get discombobulated with how much like the emotions or your
Yeah.
inner power base is stirred up. It can get overwhelming, and that's kind of
Yeah.
the point of the nines. 10 in
Love
the
this
east, we
card.
have the ancestor in the east. But when she popped up, I was like, oh, hello, hello, there you are. And I came back to this after we had decided that they were all ancestors, and I just love it.
Yeah.
Again,
So,
all the spirits are playful plays, comfortable. I
so good.
love I love
Oh,
the traveler in the east
so
and the
good.
magical fish kind of jumping out of there. Love it, love it, love it. Yeah, the caretaker in the east.
But
Yeah.
here she's in command of this
Yeah, no,
environment.
I do love her. Yeah,
So
she's
so
gorgeous.
good.
This is one of my favorite. I love all the guardians, but I love this. He's like untangling this magic creature got tangled
I
up in the nest.
know. So
Absolutely
good.
love it. But so
So
all of the guardians are showing them working with the people they're responsible for, the creatures they're responsible for, and
yeah.
actively caring for them. The one was offering food. This one is untangling it from the net. You'll see the other ones are doing some sort of nurturing.
So good.
Um, which
Now
brings us
we're in the
to
wands, we're in the
south,
south.
which is fire. I love this one. The two in the south, or the two of wands, is often about creating a space to move forward and creating a path. But they've brought these two elements together, and it's almost like there's that portal. Again, there's a lot of portal energy. And I really see that here as kind of creating that
Yeah.
space to move forward. If you're trying to find that sort of traditional movement, but
Yeah.
I just fell in love. They just popped in and I was like, okay, I have no choice. Like these guys wanted to come out to play.
Every time I see this card, I think either hop to or fly to it. Whatever it is, do it,
I love it.
Move.
I
You've got your
love it.
direction. I love this card
I
too.
really love this one too. Again, it's the tending of the fire. I've always looked for decks that had the tending of the fire in the three of wands or the three of fire. And so I absolutely love,
So good.
I love it. I love the background on this one a lot. Again,
Yeah.
they're all kind of desert scape, but that feels really deserty.
This is such a great
I do
four.
love this
Oh
one.
my gosh.
I had asked a Mother Stars, Patrick's mother, I'm like, what house like would you live in and of the fours? And she's like, she didn't want to pick. I'm like, you don't have to
No.
pick. You can go visit them at any time you want.
She took your question very
I
seriously. She's like, well,
know.
I have arthritis, so I think it might be
The
too cold
cold
in the
might be
north.
I'm like, there's a burning fire in there to keep you warm and toasty. But I do love all the fours.
Yeah.
I
This
love
is
this five
this is
and
one of my
yeah.
favorite cards.
And it's
Yeah.
like the environment, like what would be a storm, so a sandstorm. But what's so amazing is that fives are very difficult and destructive, but in the
Yeah.
sandstorm, it's literally changing the environment.
Yeah.
Like it's going to come back down in a different place it was before. I just love it.
That's how I read fives. I've always read fives as change,
Yeah, it's
which
making a
change can
change.
be disruptive,
It can
right?
be very
Yeah.
disruptive. It can be
Yeah.
uncomfortable in the midst of it, but it's change that needs to happen often.
Yeah.
I love that
Yeah.
card.
Oh
And
my gosh,
this
this
one,
is
I actually thought, Pat, when I remember when I went to show you this, I thought you would veto this one
no.
because
This
it
one's
is
so
very
personal for me.
magical.
Yeah. And my dad, who I had a really, so this ended up being a card that I pulled in Ancestral Space for him. And what was so amazing about that is, as you know, I was raised sort of without my father. And by the time he died last year, we had sort of had an
This
amazing sort
started,
of moment. But
yeah,
when I was a kid, it was a really destructive, definitely unhealthy, abusive
yeah,
relationship. But one thing I remember when I was little, he made a wooden train set and for my brother and I. My brother had one and I had one. It looked just like this. They connected
so
like this.
amazing.
And I pulled this in Ancestral Space
Yeah,
on my dad's lament day. And I just was like, this is
I
insane. You
know.
can't make this up. So
I love it.
it's a magical train.
At this point, we were intentionally leaving magic in, but I
Yes.
always because again, normally Patrick doesn't lean towards decks that have fairies or
No,
anything
no.
like that in it. And so I always felt like we were skirting the boundary of
Yeah.
something he would actually use in
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
practice.
It's so true. It's so true.
I
You know what it
know.
is in this deck? There's such diversity in it. It's not all just fae. It's
No,
not all
yeah,
just like snow creatures. It's like little
yeah,
lizards that have, like in this card, there's limited humans, but where there are humans, there's even
yeah,
diversity of the humans in this
yes,
deck
for
in
sure.
shape, size, ethnicity.
I love how it turned out. This is my favorite combo because you have this little boy who's just, the sevens are about finding your foundation and then you're going to start to grow. So he's found his position, he's set, he's seated, he's stable, and he's starting to grow his power. They look like this is him
They
grown
do.
up.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, and he has mastered his element.
Yeah,
That gives me shivers. I love
good.
seeing the
Love it.
progression. Oh,
Yeah.
and then again, 9 is overwhelming. It's
Yeah.
fire, powerful. Like you can make so much transformative power. And lava is literally change the world, shape of the world. But so there's so much to work with, but that would be very overwhelming if you were.
Well, and I love the nines in this deck again, like we were talking about with the sevens. The nines are the hermit and the sun, and these all feel like you're either right in the lantern of the hermit or you're right in the eye of the sun. Like it's just a little too much. Like
Yeah,
it's just,
you
it's
can
just,
use it, but you've got to be
yeah,
careful because
yeah,
it's a lot.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
love that.
Sure.
Tens again are ancestors. So this is an ancestor in the south in the desert. I love him. And
Yeah,
I
he's
love
amazing.
the fire here, like calling you to kind of sit down and hear the story from your ancestors. Love
When
that.
I am in ancestor space, a lot of times I'm with the Greenwood Tarot, and I there's always this drum, and I like it's
You have
here. It's
that
like I can
feel.
hear the
Yeah,
drum.
love it. Again, spirits are sort of playful energy. So is a fire spirit, comfortable, playful in its environment. This
Yep.
one I do love. I feel
It's
like this is the most
literally
epic one. This is
so epic.
definitely epic. And this was a redo. The first one was very blue fire. It was fiery, but it was blue. There's
Hmm.
something else. There's some reason why I came back and redid this. And I'm so glad I did
I
because
think wasn't there another person? Wasn't it multiple horses or
it might have
multiple?
been like we were really trying to have like the one figure, but for some
Yeah,
reason I came back and reprompted this,
yeah,
and I loved like it's
yeah.
very much
Oh, good.
feels like he is literally changing his left the portal, entered into a new space, very powerful.
So good. Yeah.
Yeah. But I
So
do
so
feel like it's the most like epic. Like that could be like a fantasy cover novel or something.
totally.
I love her so
Yeah.
much. I think this was the one that popped through where I started to think, okay, that facing of the environment, she's kind of going sideways, but and I love the way the sand is like
Yeah.
overlapping onto her
Yeah.
clothing. I
It
think she's
was around here that it was like,
yeah.
yeah, she
It
really
started
set
to
the tone.
solidify, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
And
this is so good.
love the Guardian of the South. Again, they're all carrying, he's pouring water in for the creatures to meet, and there's magical creatures. I don't even know if there's any normal creatures.
I don't
He
think so.
kind of looks like there's some pretty cool antelopes, so a little bit, but they're, oh, look, I think he's actually on his back, but AI
He
likes it.
is.
But then look at this little guy. I never really, he looks like a little gnome. I
Yeah,
never even noticed him
yeah,
until just now.
yeah.
This was
This
another
is
one we already
so
talked about, so I
good.
won't stay. I never asked for this little mouse, and how cute is he? I adore him.
Oh,
But this one was really based on the understanding of the spotted salmon in Celtic ideology, that it was in a well and you would go there, you could eat the salmon, different, talk to the salmon, eat the salmon, and it's a way of gaining wisdom.
yeah.
And so I loved the borrowers growing up. And so I definitely wanted a borrower-esque little fae. Um, and I think I had said like the cloth looks like a little piece of tapestry because they would kind of steal little things.
Oh,
So I was
yeah.
trying to get like a her and looking down in the well to the salmon, the wisdom salmon, because this is such a housey, earthy, practical. The borrowers are. They're using stuff from their environment, and so then connected with the watery wisdom, because all the twos are these connection of energies.
Hmm.
And so I wanted her, and I wanted the salmon in the, I could not get that salmon in the well for anything. And I showed this to, and this was a little too cutesy like the other three in the east. I was like, I really wasn't going for cutesy, but I mean, it's a borrower, like they are cute. But I showed this to Patrick. I'm like, I can't get the fish in the well. He's like, the fish doesn't need to
No,
be in the well.
don't put it in the wild because
And it's been really for reading. I've had this come
yes,
up, and it's been
yes,
like, you can't contain wisdom. Like there is
no,
that
no.
sense of letting it free and seeing what comes of it. That's
Yes.
really interesting in readings.
Well, and you also see the two of pentacles or coins often being
You're
about
balancing
priorities and
it.
what you're juggling. And what
Yeah,
I like about this is the priorities here to this fish are going to be different
different.
perhaps than to this,
Yeah.
and different to even the there's a little butterfly over the water, and
Oh yeah,
even the priorities of the butterfly
are
could be
different.
different.
So to
Yes.
me, it's perfect. I
Yeah.
love this.
This card. Oh my gosh. This
Yeah.
card's
So again, all the threes are a fey creature that's helping to grow. But what I love about this that I did not request is that you have the acorn, the little sapling, and then the roots of this massive tree that it's going to become. So
yeah.
by caring and growing that environment of your resources, you're also seeing where this could all go for you.
Yeah.
But I
No, but
love
it's
it.
cool. It's really cool how
I
it
mean,
ended
who
up.
doesn't want to live in this house? Again, West environment is always in autumn, so there's autumn colors, landscape, but I love this cabin in the woods and a little bridge to get across it. Five in the West. Again, they're all natural disasters. Forest fires are natural disasters, and they actually do serve purposes. Obviously, not being careless with your campfires, but fire and forest fires happen naturally and they burn off a lot of the undergrowth. This has been a really good card coming up in readings because sometimes you just need to go in and clear that undergrowth and it allows for fresh
Yeah.
growth and movement to take place. Obviously, it can be very devastating as well. A little smoky because it's after the forest fire. So
Yeah.
it works.
It does.
But all of these little gnomes have just like come out to clear up the debris.
A field of gnomes.
Field of gnomes coming out to clear the debris. This is the most
Uh,
Rider-Waite Smith. I
and I
really
just
like
love it.
this imagery, and it's the biggest nod to the Rider-Waite Smith of the gardener who is, done the weeding, done the work, and continuing to maintain and keep it stable, but allowing that growth to keep going. And again, it does such a good job of the light in this one.
Yeah. And the magic is here
Yeah,
because you've got
that's
this
and it was
path.
just it was embodied. Like I was like, yeah, okay, I can't get rid of this. And I love it.
This
Again,
one.
mastery in the eight, she's like literally embodies her energy. She is fully embodied the earth energy, the changing of the seasons. Like she
Yeah.
is a dryad, so she obviously is mastered.
Yeah. I like that a lot.
Love it. And then again, the nines are all that, but to me, this is like the Secret Guard Night, which is another book I loved growing up. But that sort
Yeah.
of that's been allowed to just grow, which is gorgeous. But if you were coming in to like try to tame this a little bit, it would be overwhelming. There's just a
Yeah.
lot of energy here,
Yeah.
but it's absolutely beautiful. Love it.
Love him. Love
He's one of
him.
my favorite ancestors. So this is the 10 in the west. So this is the answer. We have the two males. When is the other male? I'm trying blanking.
The is it the South?
Yes, yep. 10 in the south, sitting around
Yeah.
the fire. Yep,
Yeah.
are the
Yeah.
males.
Yeah.
But I loved him. This was a first shot. This was one just putting it in. It came up. I was like, well, hello.
Yeah. It's so
Another
it's just so
ancestor.
perfect.
We
Yeah.
won't be skipping you. Again, I love this spirit. I love the leaves in her hair and the
Yeah.
blowing, and she's just kind of blowing through the structure of a field. It's quite beautiful.
Yeah.
This was a redo on this one was Patrick's fall. This one didn't have I had a magical trailer full of like some magic in there. He was like, there's not much enough magic in the Traveler in the West. So I tweaked one of the wordings and then this like magical creature came up.
And this is like a very
I
magical.
know. I love him. For me, he feels so shamanic. Like
Yeah.
he feels like he is putting on this vibrant show, but like I feel like they're like this is a powerful, like this is kind of meeting Odin, who's like
Yeah.
in his hat and covered, where you think you're meeting one thing that's flashy and showy, but there's like real power underneath all that.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
very powerful. Jamie, I know, really got struck by this one
yeah.
strongly.
So cool.
Yep.
This is one of my favorites.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think she's beautiful. I actually have two that I really liked. The other one was really beautiful, but I really loved again the dress is literally, if it focus, it literally has like the actual like flowers and vegetables and like the harvest, which is not here. This
Yeah.
is not hard. It's all in her on her dress.
So
That's super
perfect.
gorgeous. Yeah,
It's so perfect. Yeah.
super gorgeous. And then the last of the guardians caring for
Yeah.
the trees themselves. But I love how all of the new trees are coming out of the cut down trunks.
Yeah.
Like people have gone in and really taken a lot from the forest, and he's like in those places he's regrowing and caring for the trees. I just think
So
it's
cool.
beautiful.
I love it so
Yeah, I
much.
love
Yeah.
that. Do you want to just quickly, and well, again, there's going to be a lot of stuff. We're not done talking about this world, but
No.
um, the guidebook, has been so much fun
Oh,
to do. This is just a sample one, so some of the things are missing, but it's done now. But this has been
it's
so
uh
much
it's
fun.
like 60 pages final,
It's
right?
one I recommend reading the credits because there's some funny little things in the credits and in the
There is.
disclaimers that make me smile.
Yeah.
Keep
Oh,
moving, but it's just really turned out quite beautiful. That's the whole keeper of the stories.
yeah.
Again, we've got our connective energies. Oh yeah, and it does have in the numbers, like here's the one, but it also shows like the magician and strength,
Yeah.
so that if you want to go and connect those together. I love this page because it shows you on the map where all of the majors exist, where those landscapes exist, and then obviously you have all of your cards. We do a quick reference. Obviously, this is not finished, but
Yeah.
and then the direction spread, which is a spread I actually have used a lot. So I love this. To me,
Every
as much
every
play as
yes.
the deck is, and the back, like that was an actual D&D cover backing.
Yeah.
I showed it to my daughter and she's seen some of them and she loved, like, and this was on the original one where that yellow band there with
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I had to reconstruct, yeah, because like in this one, you've got the prototype there.
yes,
The one that is final is a reconstruction of all of this. It was
just
so fun to
so
be inspired
fun.
by it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
by what, like these adventure, like a D&D book. And again, like the font and the boxes. Oh, I keep
Yeah.
flashing thing. The font, the boxes, especially like this is stuff that if you were making a D&D adventure, the template was for somebody to make a D&D adventure and
Yeah.
have all of those. So there's so many nods that, yeah.
Every component of this has just been
Yeah.
such
This is all
pure
Patrick. Like
joy.
I did not do any of this. I did none of the boxes. And that's where we came to the conversations of like, this really was like, we even talked about how it's kind of weird that we hadn't collaborated on making a deck. Like you made,
No.
although to me, and this is a thing, like we've both been very invested. So to
Yeah.
me, your astrology deck was my perfect astrology. Like we talked a lot
100%.
about it. I
Yes.
said,
Yeah.
hey, you've got to have Chiron in there.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Um,
the nodes, the north
and
and
the
the south
nodes, yeah.
node.
Like, so we've always been very interactive
Yes.
in
Yes.
each
Yeah.
other's things, but we've never been like, hey, let's make a XYZ. This
Yeah.
turned into that naturally on its own, and it's probably the best way for it to happen. But then
Yes.
it's like, okay, we have to have your name on this
It's
because
amazing. Kelly was just so gracious, like in taking me along, and then she let me literally alter all 78
I
cards.
think so. It was very
Oh,
natural.
yeah,
Um,
it was. It
and
was
but I
so
don't even
cool.
know truthfully. I don't know if I would have even finished all the cards. Like I was doing it as again, I was playing, I needed it. But
Yeah.
once he reacted so enthusiastically and was all in it, then that kind of energy feeds on each other. And yeah, I just rolled with it. So
Well,
it's
like you said, I
really
mean,
fun.
get yourself friends who support what you do, because we've
Yeah.
always supported each other. And Kelly was so critical to the Living Will astrology cards. I was right there for the Story in
Very
Color
first one.
Lenormand
Yeah.
and for the Journey Oracle. And
All of it.
but there was something that happened in this process that just at the end, Kelly was saying, well, before she's like,
Yeah.
we're creating our deck, we're playing
I
with our
know.
deck,
And
and
you
I
were
was
trying to
like,
be, I think you were trying to be careful not to overstep.
yeah, I was,
And
yeah,
it was like, no, like this
no,
feels to me like we just our play fields and our need
yeah.
for like that to happen
Yeah,
just merged, and
yeah.
the energy of it, you know.
It feels different. It
Yeah.
feels different than the supporting that we've always done. And
Yeah.
it feels like a really special, exciting,
But I
like
was nervous, like I didn't
beautiful thing.
know, truthfully, like we ended up having a conversation and
Yeah.
not skirting around it. But I thought, you know, look, this is an AI deck. People have strong feelings about AI decks, good,
Yes.
bad, and in between, indifferent. Some
Yeah.
people are indifferent.
Yeah.
But you know, I was like, you do not want to necessarily take some of the fire here.
Yes, right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
and truthfully, the fact of the matter is this wouldn't be even available if it wasn't for Patrick, and so it really wouldn't be a fully formed. But I 100% believe if it was just for the two of us,
We'd be
it
just
still
as
would have
happy
had
right
all
now.
of this. Like we so, anyways,
Yeah.
we
And for anybody that
yeah.
it resonates with, I just hope it really does. That we both wrote little entries to the guidebook at the
Mhm.
front to
Yeah,
introduce it.
there's a
And
prologue
yeah.
space where we kind of
And we're
why
both,
how this came together.
yeah, and it's in the
There,
spirit
yeah,
of, for anybody, it could be one person. If there's one
yeah.
person that shares in this resonance, then great. This is pure joy. The guidebook will be available as a PDF download, but it will
Yes.
be available to purchase on Lulu, which this guidebook in physical form had to exist. And you know, find your perfect size. You've got
But just
poker, you've got
aesthetically, like
tarot, you've got giant. I know, look at it. Like, just look at it. It's all of those things we just said, and on top of it, like, I am so proud of it. I feel like we've just really had such an amazing experience.
not slowed its roll.
No, no, it's just joyous. It's just a joyous, epic, amazing
Yeah.
thing that we're just going to just say more coming soon.
Yeah, yeah, it's very soon.
Yes, and you'll be able to go right to the links on Kelly's site or on my site, and you'll see them both on our Instagrams going
Yeah.
forward. So yeah.
All right. Anyways, we're gonna wrap
Yeah.
this up because who
Yes.
knows how many hours long this is. But I know it's a lot. So we
Yes.
will.
Thank you for watching.
Yes, if you've made it this far.
Thank you.